show. My name is Ray Johns. The name of the show is Voices Not Yet Heard, and we hope that your voice gets heard today. I would like for this to become a vehicle for people who cannot or don't feel that their voices are heard. Now, I have a wonderful guest today. We have several topics I'd like to talk about. I'll start with Donald Trump. As you can see, I have my Donald Trump shirt on. I actually have about 7 of these, so I can wear one every single day. Someone once asked me not too long ago, why Donald Trump? And I'll tell you, there are several reasons why. But let's start with his campaign. Here's a gentleman who, and I'm not talking about what the media says about his campaign. I'm talking about what actually happened, the facts of this campaign. This man has overcome every single obstacle set in front of him, every one of them. And he strode on forward to become the nominee. I would like to talk about people getting behind Donald Trump. I think that we have the major hitters, Jeb Bush, Lindsey Graham, great senator from South Carolina, and now, of course, Paul Ryan, who I understand is about to get on board. These are the people we need. We need these people, and we need people like you and I. Go to your congressman. Get behind Donald Trump. We must overcome another 8 years of this administration that we have right now. We want to do better. We want to strive forward. I think Donald Trump can do that. I would like to talk about my guest. His name is Don. Don, come on over. Come on over and sit down. We're going to talk about this gentleman. Is amazing. He is just amazing. He wears a lot of hats. And speaking of hats, slide on in here a little bit better so we can get you in there. Okay. Speaking of hats, I thought I had the best looking hat until I saw yours today. That is an outstanding hat. I want one like it.
Well, Ray, if you want one like this one here, you'll have to go to Old Town Clovis.
Oh, that's great. I've been there.
Sassano's Menswear.
I've been there. I bought boots.
You've been there, yes.
They have great boots.
I'm wearing boots also from there. And I think your boots are very impressive.
Thank you. I would like for you to tell our audience a little bit about yourself. I know you're a historian, and I know you're a photojournalist, I think they call them. But
right.
He told me some fantastic stories, and I would like to share those with you. Don, explain what you do.
Actually, Ray, you're close. It's not Don. It's Ron.
Ron. My apologies.
Ron.
I'm sorry.
No. No, it's a common error that so many make, because my dad's name was Don.
Oh wow!
So I think you're thinking of our family when you're looking at me.
Okay,
really.
Perhaps that's true.
So it might be a little psychic.
Well, tell us a little bit about you and what you
do. I was born and raised in northern Minnesota. Came to California in 1976, and I've been here ever since. I was really.
That's the year I became a Republican, by the way, 1976, 40 years ago.
Oh, fantastic. And I was registered as a Republican. So, well, you want to ask about me, but I'm impressed with your Donald Trump shirt myself. I've been watching his campaign as it's been evolving.
Fantastic, man.
And I have a little bit, I'm not really following politics that close. Being a historian, though, it's a part of my history. So it's American history in the making.
Speaking of which, talk to us about the Clovis Museum. Tell us a little bit about that. I know you're the director.
Well, I'm hoping that a lot of our viewers out there are aware that Clovis, California, has a great museum. It was founded in 1982. I was appointed as the first director of that museum, ran it for 16 years till about 2002. Was a director, the curator, letter writer, just everything. Tour guide, gave tour, loved meeting people.
Man of many hats, and you wear them well.
Thank you. I'm a people person like you. So that's why you have a show where you want viewers to be a part of your show. You're a people person. And that's what Donald Trump is all about.
Absolutely.
He is a people person.
Absolutely.
And this is what Old Town Clovis is all about. We're a people person community. I was just at the mayor's breakfast this morning, and we were talking about that. We have the police department that stepped out and helped this son who had a mother coming home that had just gotten out of a coma, and she needed a walk-in toilet that she could use because she was very incapacitated. Well, they couldn't afford it. and her son was worried because he couldn't take care of her without these added amenities into the home. So our local police went out and out of their own pockets, not the city fund, but their own pockets.
Hands up to the Clovis Police Department. Well done.
Bought her the equipment she needed, and the fire department does the same. The public servants, the public utilities. There was a one of our employees named Ronald that was drawing this refuse truck up and down this neighborhood. And this little tiny boy, about 4 or 5 years old, would come out and just loved his truck. And he especially took time and nurtured that little boy and just almost adopted the kid and became good friends with that little kid, and the parents were so amazed.
That is so important to a community.
That
it really is.
That the city employees take their time to get to know the people in their neighborhoods.
I've got to ask you a question. He told me a wonderful story about Pulaski, the street, the gentleman that was named after. Could you tell that story, please?
Yes.
About Mr. Pulaski.
Marcus Pulaski, a very interesting person, came from Chicago. He and his brother had their own finance company.
Were they bankers or?
They went into banking, but they had finance companies and made a lot of money. He came to California, and he had met, in the interim, he had met Huntington and all these great railroad magnates that were situated in San Francisco.
I assume that Huntington is the street, Huntington Boulevard, is named after this gentleman.
That's
Am I
true,
correct?
C.P. Huntington. But anyway, Marcus Pulaski was working for Southern Pacific Railroad, and under the guise, with the SP initials, he then comes to our local farmers, and his equipment is going up and down the valley, you know, and one farmer, of course, he had to buy right away for the railroad, and the farmers had to sell. Most of them did, because they were convinced that Marcus Pulaski was building a people's railroad, which it was called, but under the guise of SP, which he claimed was his brother's initials, Sam Pulaski.
Oh my goodness! No.
Which really wasn't right. Of course, when the word gets out, who's the scapegoat for the People's Railroad that actually went under? The farmers made little or no money off this railroad, shipping their produce into Fresno, or transportation-wise. We had a good little commuter train for a while going from Clovis to Fresno. In the 1890s.
Mm-hmm.
This is going back a few years. But Marcus Pulaski was the scapegoat.
Were they at one time going to name the what's now called Clovis Pulaski? Was there? I'd heard different.
No, we had a Pulaski depot where Friant, the little community, is now.
Oh, I see.
Friant, California, and Pulaski. Actually, Friant was going to be, in the 1890s, renamed, well, at that time it was Hamptonville. It was going to be renamed Pulaski in honor of Marcus Pulaski. That was going to be the terminus. But his railroad was supposed to go all the way to Truckee, California, and then connect with Central Pacific, coming from over the mountains through Truckee. And it never happened. And then, of course, it would go to the coast. So we would have an intercontinental railroad, thanks to Marcus Pulaski, which would connect the east-west line with the north-south People's Railroad in the Central Valley.
Now, was that eventually done, though, but done with SP?
No, Southern Pacific actually built theirs further to the west, which went through Fresno, California.
Okay.
So Marcus Pulaski, that's why it was a People's Railroad, and he had to kind of keep it undercover because Southern Pacific already had their line. And but Marcus Pulaski was using Southern Pacific equipment, and yeah, he died of a heart attack in his office in Chicago. And in his remembrance, though, we do have a street in Clovis named Pulaski Avenue, which is the main street of Old Town Clovis now.
I must tell you about this gentleman. When he was in the service, when he got out of the service. Tell him what you did as far as the hobo thing. He wanted to learn about hobos, so here's what he did.
Well, if you want to be a millionaire, you hang around millionaires.
Absolutely.
You want to be a real estate man, you hang around other real estate agents to get some input. You want to be an artist, you inquire, hang around some good artists and get some tips. And then you incorporate your own style
Absolutely.
from others. Well, I wanted to be an author for a time, so I thought, well, Reader's Digest was a big book in our family at that time. We got Reader's Digest. And the stories, the human interest stories, were fascinating. People that did things that I thought couldn't be done. Well, I was going to attempt to live the life of a hobo and then write about it. So I spent nearly a year on the road hopping freight trains from 1970 to 71.
You must have had some fantastic
Well,
experience.
I just gotten out of the Air Force, and I had a few bucks to start with. Of course, money runs out fast. I think I only had about $700 on me when I left on this journey. And I caught a freight in my hometown, went to Minneapolis freight yards, Minneapolis, Minnesota, and then we headed to Kansas City, Missouri.
And you stopped periodically along the way and learned about the cities
What
and the
was
towns.
amazing, getting on these old box cars in the 70s, they were rickety box cars that had poor suspension, and they were bouncing on the wheels, going 90-some miles an hour. These
Oh my goodness, they went that fast.
Called fast freights. These were the nighttime freights that really had a. Well, we have trains now that come through Fresno. On the open track at 100 miles an hour.
I didn't know that.
And then,
I had no idea.
Well, from 80 to 100 at times. But when they come into the cities, they have to really slow down. Some come through some towns without stopping, but they're going like 60 to 80 at that time. And we've had accidents recently in Madera County and up north that have just split these trucks in half because they've hit at 80 miles an hour.
I've seen photos.
Amtrak did that just recently, and there were 3 people killed.
Tell us about your photos.
The
I'm very
photos,
interested in that. I think the audience would like to know.
Okay, first I'll end with this hobo story, though. I was going to write a story for Reader's Digest. It's all in my head yet. I haven't really... I've shared the story with many people. I met people on the way, and I didn't have my camera at that time. When you're doing this kind of a lifestyle, you can't carry any electronics, basically, because hobos don't.
Yes.
It was just you were there, and
You probably wanted to blend in and be one of them.
you were looking for places to wash up every stop, because the dust and dirt from these freight trains really was dirt and grime on you. So I was riding gondolas, I was riding boxcars, I was riding in dangerous on the ends of oil tank cars, and if there had been derailments, I wouldn't be here today. So it's a terrible life. Photography, you mentioned, is one of my real passions, and I'm now involved with photography in a big way with our local newspaper, the Clovis Roundup in Clovis. I'm a photojournalist for them. I'm a photojournalist for the Clovis Chamber of Commerce.
We're going to hold that thought. We're going to go to commercial. When we come back, we're going to resume with my guest in just a few seconds. I call it 2 and 2. Welcome back. We're here with my guest, Ron Sundquist, and he was telling us about photos. So, Ron, come on in, talk to us about photos.
Well,
the photography that you do.
Right. I was on the other day, and I had a video I'd sent in, but next show that I'm on with you, I'll see that we have some visuals for our viewers. It's hard for the viewer to get an idea, really, of the quality that I achieve with very inexpensive equipment compared to what's out there on the market now.
I have 16 megapixel cameras, which now you know they have 20 and megapixel on up. I have just standard lenses, not the expensive lenses. You know, mine are the $200 lenses. Well, you know, the good lenses are from $1,000 on up if you go to Horn Photo locally here. Beautiful lenses, but up to, you can spend $10,000 just for the lens for your body of your camera. It's the lens that's important. You can use a Canon body as I'm using. Put a good lens on that body, you'll achieve basically what a expensive body, Nikon, Canon, which might be
$1,000 camera body alone, which usually they sell by the body on the really expensive cameras, and the lenses are extra. All the attachments are extra with the big equipment. So, but I do macro photography a lot. I just
Now explain that, macro photography.
Macro is where you have a close-up. It's like on the old camera, you have a little filter, a close-up lens, where I can get as close to a microphone like is in front of me right here, and just show one of the grid patterns.
Oh my
This
goodness.
microphone has like 1,000 grid lines on it.
You can
But
actually show only one.
You can focus and zoom in to where you might only get one or two of those grid lines on a macro, a good macro. The depth of field is very shallow. Depth of field is what's in focus. So on with macro, the depth of field, what's going to be in focus in front or behind whatever you're filming will be out of focus. So only the subject that you're filming will be in focus. If it's a bee on a flower, the flower behind the bee will be out of focus. If you're filming a honeybee collecting pollen, focus on the bee, and the bee hopefully will be in focus. The flower around the bee that he's on will be in focus. But off
amazing.
to the side and behind, it'll be blurred. It'll give a three-dimensional effect. And this is, macro is good in that respect. You can get kind of a three-dimensional effect with that photography. You can also do standard photography with depth of field focusing, which is really neat. And this is where the f-stop comes in, focal distance. And of course, if you're a photographer, you'll get to know the focal distance right across the table. You can put something in the center of our table in front of here, and just focus on that, and behind and in front will be out of focus, but the object in the center of the table will be in focus. So depth of field is you set manually on these cameras. I'm doing a lot of manual settings now, which are initially difficult to the
Well,
amateur.
hopefully next time you come on the show, you can bring some of your photos. We'd really like to see them.
And I'll bring the camera to show you.
Great, I would like
because
that.
we have photographers out there that go to these rallies, and hopefully if Trump or some of these other people come to the valley, you know, I can show you how to get the best portraits when you're in a group. And this is important.
It would be very beneficial to me.
Zoom in and get some nice candidate portraits that you can even send to the candidate themselves, which they will appreciate.
By the way, if you want to talk to Ron, if you want to talk to him, feel free to call in. The number will appear on the screen, or anything else. We're talking about Donald Trump. We're going to discuss a gentleman named Jason Riley, who's written a wonderful book. If you'd like to talk about anything, please feel free in. This is your vehicle for your voice. Okay, Ron?
Well, photography is a big thing, but I've also did a little poetry, and it's honoring our veterans at maybe the end of the program. We can throw that in. It was dedicated last Veterans Day, but I'm an artist.
He's a man of many hats. Many hats.
Well, thank you. I've completed nearly 20 murals for all of our Yosemite Falls restaurants.
I eat there often.
In the valley, on Shaw, Blackstone, Granite Park. The only one I didn't do was Ashland in '99.
I'm going to pay more close attention next time I go in there, which will probably be tonight or tomorrow morning. I love their breakfast.
And these are rather large. They're 20 feet long, or 20 feet wide by 52 inches high, which is almost 5 feet. So they're one of my earlier achievements back in the early 2000 era. I've done windows. Of course, you want to know about me. Well, I've done windows in antique stores in Clovis, a 40-foot mural by 17 feet high on the patio of On the Edge Coffee Shop. If you go to Old Town Clovis, you'll see it on the patio. I did the windows above the museum. There's 3 panels that were dedicated in 2002 by our mayor. that were done in gold gilt paint, showing the history of the lumbering, the flume, which was the third longest in the world that came to Clovis, as well as farming with Clovis Cole's portrait in the middle panel, and Half Dome as a background, because we are the gateway to the Sierra. And then we have the other panel on the right side, which shows the early businesses, which is the first school, the first business. Robert L. Good was our first mercantile person in Clovis.
When was Clovis incorporated as a city? What year was that?
1912.
So it's over slightly over 100 years ago.
February 1912. We just celebrated our 100th birthday a couple of years back. Well, actually, 12. Wow, it's been 4 years.
Could you tell us a little bit about Clovis himself, the man that the city was living?
Clovis Marshall Cole, what a guy. Young kid, came from Vevey, Indiana, Switzerland County. Of course, I'm from Minnesota, so how would I know anything about Clovis Cole? Well, it was a crash course. I became a museum curator and director in 1982. Anyway, Clovis Cole became a Teamster. Not what we think a Teamster is today in the working area, probably. A Teamster was a logger. It was one that worked in our logging industry up in Shaver Lake area back in the 1880s and 90s. He came about 1890 and was one of our Teamsters that brought logs down from Shaver Lake to Brett's Mill, which was one of the big logging mills.
That's when they brought them down with the flumes. And
well, we had tandem wagons that were pulled by mule teams also that brought them down.
Did the flume come later?
The flume was built. Ingvar Thielman, the surveyor in Fresno, actually designed the flume. It was a U-shaped box at first just to carry water. And of course, the flume was built, the V, on top of the U, and designed by Ingvar. And it was a 47-mile flume, where the largest flume in the world ran into Sanger.
Oh, it did?
From Hume Lake. Oh, yes, the Sanger flume. The second largest flume in the world ran into Madera, the Sugar Pine
So the
Lumber
two
Company.
largest flumes were actually right here in Central California.
All three largest flumes are right here in Fresno County.
Standard.
Well, actually, Sugar Pine Lumber was in Madera, from Mariposa, Madera County.
But the valley itself.
And then the other to Sanger, yeah, it was the valley. So they all started in Fresno County. Lumbering was the big thing in Clovis. Clovis became the lumber town, #1 USA. Back in the 1890s, Clovis burned down a couple of times.
I didn't know that.
Oh yes, in the 1890s.
Completely?
Not completely. The lumber mill did. It burned completely, and then in 1930, another lumber yard burned near 3rd Street. And what's now 3rd and Clovis Avenue, there was a big lumber yard there, and that burned. And embers, because of the winds, embers from the chips that were being burned would fly up in the air, and of course all the buildings were flume lumber, which was 12-inch by
very ignitable.
Yeah, 12-inch wide, 1-inch thick, and 16 feet long, and buildings were built with that. They were all vertical planks, and they were saturated with oil to make the buildings waterproof. So the wood was oiled. So it was very flammable. If any spark or any flame would come near those buildings, wow.
Well, that must have been one rebuilding process.
So, of course, it was like the Three Pigs. They went from wood to brick and concrete. So the bank in 1912, when the city was incorporated, was built with brick, and it was robbed in 1924, $32,800 by Thomas Griffin and Felix Sloper out of...
These were the outlaws? How fascinating.
Out of the Bay Area. Oh, yes.
Were they caught?
They were caught later, but...
And subsequent?
It was the first bank robbery where nails were used in bank robbery history.
No,
right
explain
here in
that, because this
nails were used. They didn't shoot the nails. They threw them out of the getaway car to stop the police cars
Oh
from
my
getting
goodness.
chased. Yeah, so the cars got flat tires, and they went back north to the coast near Vacaville, and Thomas Griffin actually was caught, went to prison, escaped, and while on escape, went across the American River and caught pneumonia, was swimming across and caught pneumonia, and he died. And Felix Sloper went back to San Francisco, robbed another bank, shot one of the guards, killed him, then he was caught a little later, went to San Quentin. Both of them were in San Quentin for a time.
Well, what was his fate after being...
But Felix Sloper, the owl, was hung in San Quentin. He was hung. Their girlfriend, who was Catherine Ryan, for some reason the money was never found, $32,800. And Catherine Ryan supposedly had the money, and she never turned it in, and no one.
Did she live a flamboyant life after that, or was it?
No one ever saw her again.
She completely disappeared.
She probably left the country or went south, you know, to Mexico.
What an interesting story. That's a story that movies are made out of.
Oh, sure. And we, in our museum, we have the shotgun used by Joaquin Murrieta.
Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah, it has 14 notches in it, and it has his initials on the inner iron pieces within the wood grips. I actually, when I was a curator, took it apart to verify it, and his initials, J. M.
I'm ashamed that I've never been. I've lived here this long. I've never been to this museum. I'm going to change that. I'm going to come to the museum, hopefully with you. Hopefully you'll be there.
Right.
And I would like to go through it with you.
But it's a double-barreled English William Moore shotgun.
Is it short?
Sawed-off shotgun. It's sawed off. The barrel's sawed off. It's only about 18 inches total length. The stock is sawed off. The barrel's sawed off. Double flintlock hammers. It's a Damascus twist iron barrel, which in those days could explode if you loaded your shot too heavily. You know, be careful.
We're going to go to commercial. We're going to come back. We're going to talk to my wonderful guest, and we're going to talk a little bit more about Donald Trump and 2 and 2. We're back with my wonderful guest, and I told you what a great historian. This is a lesson for me. I was telling him during the break that I honestly think I took 2 history classes when I was at Fresno State over 30 years ago, and I think I learned more from this gentleman, and since I've met him today, than in 2 semesters with that class. It's been very interesting. I'd like to go back, talk a little bit about Donald Trump. The numbers on the screen, if you feel like calling in, please, this is your vehicle. Call in, talk to us. If you've got questions for this gentleman, Mr. Sundquist, please call in. He's a wealth of information, and I'm learning things. He's just an outstanding guest to have. Now, I know that you, like me, not only do we wear cowboy hats and we're cowboys, but we're both Trump fans. Would you like to speak a little bit about Donald Trump and why you think he's the best for this country, as I do?
Well, every now and then, we need, it's like Donald Trump reminds me of a good shake-up for this country.
Which is exactly what we need.
This is like, a lot of people don't like the idea. And even me, it's kind of scary. But this country is so far away from the principles that this country was founded on that we need to get back to the basics.
Absolutely.
And stop all this government pandering and lying and tricks that are going on day after day behind the scenes. And you know, if Donald Trump can shake this country back to its roots, you know, our finance system is going to change. A lot will change, but that's what I go back to Abraham Lincoln. You know, he comes from the backwoods. He was educated. He educated himself. Donald Trump, I'm not a historian on Donald Trump. but I just believe in where he stands and how he has held himself firm in the adversity that has been thrown against him in his campaign. He has been honest in his comebacks.
I want a man who can persevere, and I think he can, and you just said that, more or less. It doesn't matter what's thrown at this gentleman, he overcomes it. That's the kind of man I want for president. That's the kind of man I want to run this country.
You know, but a man that we need will scare people as we stand today.
And he does. He does do that.
We are afraid of change. We're so set in this government, give me, give me, give me. You know, it's a handout, you know, and secure our borders. You know, this is not racism. This is not racism.
Of course it isn't.
This
It's
is
certainly not that.
protecting the American way. This is like Old Town Clovis. Our local police protect Old Town Clovis. We do things differently than Fresno might do. We don't have to be like Europe, Mexico, Canada. We're going to join hands.
I echo your sentiments.
We're
I do.
joining hands and hearts and working together.
And that's what we're talking about. I don't mean to interrupt you. I wanted to make this point if I could. That's why I call for everyone, every single one. We need everybody to get behind the Republican Party, to rally behind us, the big wigs, the guys that can step up to the plate that are the superstars, the Jeb Bushes, the Lindsey Grahams, you know, Mr. Ryan. We need these people. I know Jeb Bush was hurt by some things that Donald Trump said, you know, but I would be willing to admit that the great ex-First Lady, Barbara Bush, would say to her son, get your feet off my couch, get your feet off my coffee table, and go to work. Back this party because we need Jeb Bush. We need Lindsey Graham. We need these people. We need Paul Ryan. And we need you and I. We need the small people to go to your congressman. Find out what you can do to help this campaign. Maybe you can volunteer. It doesn't always have to be money. But there's something we can do. We need to unite as conservative Republicans in this country to put this man in the White House. The alternative is 8 more years of what this administration has already given us. And I think everyone, most of the people out there will accept the fact that this has been a very, very bad administration for the last 8 years.
And during campaigns, how many times do we always want to be number one? And Donald Trump has come out and said, Donald Trump has actually acknowledged that these people are good people.
Okay, hang on. We have a caller on the line. Okay, I guess it was. Hang on. Might have been a Hillary Clinton fan. Anyway, go ahead. You were making a point.
No. There are going to be callers that will be against what we believe in.
I expect it.
But we honor that. This is the American way.
Absolutely.
You don't have to believe what we're saying here today, but we in our hearts believe what we're standing for. And we want this America to be great again. We do. This is the greatest country that you will ever live in. And
absolutely.
And don't stop going out and letting others know how great this country is and how it can get better.
We need to rally. We do. We need all of us to rally behind.
Yes. Yeah, I hung up because nobody was answering.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes.
Feel free. This is your vehicle.
Hello?
Yes. I guess we're having a little difficulty.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Can you hear us? We might be experiencing a little technical.
Hello?
Yes, ma'am. Can you hear us? This is Ray.
Yes, I'm trying to call in.
Okay, well, go ahead. We can hear you.
I'm trying to. Oh, no, turn it on so I can. Oh yeah. I just tried to call in. Are you there?
Yes, we are. We're waiting for you.
Okay. I'm just going to go by the name of B.
Okay, that's fine. Welcome, B, to the show.
Okay. I'm just going by the name of B, and I can barely hear you.
I'm sorry about that. We're having some technical difficulties, but go on. We'd like to hear what you have to say. You're very welcome. Can you hear me, ma'am? I guess we're experiencing some kind of technical difficulties. If you'll stay on the line, maybe try again. We would love to hear what you have to say. I apologize for the difficulties we're having, but please call back. We still have time. Pardon?
She's still on the line. She's just not talking.
Okay, B, are you still on the line? Can you hear me? It might be, maybe the difficulty is with. Okay, perhaps they'll call back. We'll get we'll get another chance to
I'll
talk.
do this if she calls again.
Great. Okay, great. Okay, we're still live here with my great friend that I just met, that I hope to get to know so well. What an interesting gentleman this is. Like I said, he wears several hats, as you found out. He and I are in cohorts here about Mr. Trump. I think that this country needs a shakeup, as Ron just said. I really do. I think we need a shakeup. We need something different. And I tell everybody, I said, a Democratic vote at this time, at this period in this country's life, is 8 more years of what we've got. And we don't want that. We want change. We want things to get better. We want jobs. Okay, I think our caller just called back. Go ahead, you're online. I can barely hear you now. Are you there, B?
Yeah, I am here now, and you're just coming in very vague.
Okay.
On the radio.
Okay.
On the phone.
We can hear you.
Very vague on the phone.
Okay. Well, we can hear you, so we'd like to hear what. This is your vehicle, so you go ahead. You have the mic. We'd like to know what you have to say. Hello?
Yeah, I'm here.
Go ahead. We'd like to hear. Can you hear me now?
Okay. What I basically want to say is, I guess the gentleman's name is Ron.
Yes.
And where he said that we people don't like change. He did say that. And so my main thing is that we've experiencing too much change.
How so?
And so the change that occurred in our country has been negative, it's been bad, it's been, especially for us that are conservatives, and see that the changes have only made our country worse. So what we need to go back to is common sense. We need to go back to, like he said, the God intended it to be, a country with morals and values and standards. And essentially I'm from the Valley. And, things have changed so much through the years, and I see it in the schools. And so there's been a lot of changes for the worst. Our kids are being indoctrinated at the schools today are very liberal. They're not even teaching history the way we were taught history. I mean, it's just appalling. The liberals wanting to indoctrinate our kids with all of this liberal thinking, bringing in ways of thinking that don't even make sense. For example, the transgender situation, which is, not even common sense. And they're wanting to make changes for just 1 to 2% of the population that's affecting the entire population, for example, at our schools.
I agree.
Respect to the public schools where
I totally agree with.
I
totally agree with what you're saying, ma'am. I really do.
So people really don't want the changes. Yes, we want good change. If Donald Trump is president of the United States, and if he does bring back conservative values, this is what this country needs to
Absolutely.
Get back on track. This is what I wanted to say. Because, things are not going the way that it should go. It's just, it's people are scared. People are just worried about the way our country is going.
I must say, B, I totally concur with what you're saying. You know, Ronald Reagan said back in the 1980s that we need less government and more people, and it seems that today we have a lot more government than we have people. And I think that's not what the founding fathers wanted when they started this country. Are you still there, B? We may have lost her.
Right.
Yeah, we could have lost her. Very, very good call-in.
I would like to also say to B that when I said change and shake this country to its feet again, I also agree, good change, positive change. And this change we've had in so many amendments and bills passing through our government, the transgender, I agree. I'm not for that. And there are some schools you can't even recite.
Yeah, I'm still here. That's absolutely correct.
There are some schools.
And we need to go back to the basics.
There are some schools.
We need to go back. And
Right.
Go ahead, B.
Right. Right. We're listening, V. Come on. Some schools you can't recite the Pledge of Allegiance and say under God. No, that's not
What have
right.
we gotten away from it in this country?
That's not right. There are just so many negative things that have been changed, have been brought to the forefront in our country that need to be eliminated. But become an active writer. Write letters to the editor.
To your congressman,
There's-
to your conservative congressman.
But start with your local newspapers.
Absolutely.
Get it out in the valley, and
yeah,
then
well, I was going to finish it.
Go ahead, B. I apologize for the technical difficulties we appear to be having, but if you can hear my voice, go ahead. You have the mic. This is your voice. This is your vehicle. Well, I think we might have lost her. I think.
Still on the line, but she can't hear us, I don't think.
Okay. Well, we appear to
But-
we appear to have lost her. So we'll go
Yes.
ahead. Very good call in. I appreciate you so much. If you can hear us, B. You sound like a very active person. Get behind your congressman, your conservative
Yeah, what I was
congressman.
trying to finish up with saying that, like you say, we need to get more involved.
Absolutely.
And we need to get more involved, and we need to stand up. The majority of the people in this community and this state need to stand up and shout out loud.
Absolutely, we need that.
We will not accept this.
No.
We do not want to live
Yes.
this way. We don't want our children indoctrinated this way.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your call, B. It was very appreciated, and we hope you call back again. Very well done.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, V. Also, get involved with your local city council. Every Monday night, the first 3 weeks of every month, we have a great city council in Clovis and in Fresno. I don't know how often. I don't go to the Fresno council. But speak up. Speak up for your city. Speak up. No one's going to speak up for us if we don't speak up for others now.
We have to unite. That's very important. We're going to go to commercial, and we'll be back shortly. I call it 2 and 2.
And Donald Trump taking a big step today in foreign policy. Trump sat down for a meeting with former Secretary of State Henry Kissinger, former Speaker of the House and co-author of the brand new book, Rediscovering God in America. Newt Gingrich goes on the record. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Good to be with you.
Usually Mitt Romney and Sarah Palin and everybody, they all went to kiss the ring on Donald Trump's hand. Today we saw Donald Trump go down and see Henry Kissinger. What's up?
Yes. Well, first of all, Henry's 92, so I think there's sort of a legitimate visiting him to kiss his ring. And, Henry goes all the way back to President John F. Kennedy. I mean, it's amazing how long Henry's been involved in national security issues. I think it's a good thing. I mean, they know each other. They've talked by phone. But this was a good hour-long meeting. And I recently visited with Henry for a couple of hours, and he's still remarkably current and has a lot of very useful insights.
Well, he's been a guest here on the record many times. He's always been fascinating to interview. And see, I'll say, it's just the whole sort of getting into the car, and I guess it was almost like the Bronco chase in O.J. Simpson. The cameras followed Donald Trump crossing Fifth Avenue, headed down to see Dr. Kissinger.
That's part of the phenomenon of being Donald Trump, and part of why he won the nomination so decisively. But also, you know, he's sort of caught in this problem now. Okay, he is going to be the nominee. Should he go listen to really smart people, or is that a sign he doesn't know enough? Well, I think it's a pretty smart thing to recognize that in foreign policy and in national security, there are some people really worth visiting, and Henry Kissinger would be on that list.
All right, Mr. Speaker, moments ago, Donald Trump using the word rape when talking about President Bill Clinton. That was in an interview with Sean Hannity that will air tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern. Mr. Speaker, your thoughts? This was obviously the reference, as I understand it, and I haven't seen the whole interview, is that he was accusing the New York Times not doing much of an investigation when they spent 6 weeks and 2 reporters on him.
Yeah, since I haven't seen the interview and I have no idea what Trump was referring to, I mean, there have been all sorts of allegations, and there have been people who've come out of the woodwork. I always thought it was bizarre that the New York Times decides they're going to take on Donald Trump on his relationship with women, then do such a bad job that the centerpiece of their story goes on TV to say that the New York Times' whole story was a lie, exactly the opposite of what she said. Meanwhile, you have, for example, Clinton took a whole series of trips with a convicted pedophile, including 5 trips where he left behind the Secret Service. And if I were the New York Times, I really want to get involved in relating with women. Bill is such a target-rich environment. Why would you even look at Trump?
He's not the candidate. Does that make a difference? I mean, at what point? I mean, how much is Hillary Clinton going to get attacked because of the whatever her husband does to her or doesn't do?
Look, he's on the campaign trail. One of the issues that Trump is going to clearly come in on is what Hillary's relationship was, both with Bill and with the women. And there are all sorts of allegations about that. And in addition, it gets into this whole question about treating women. I've pointed out recently, you know, the Clinton Foundation pays men 38% more than women. I mean, you have a whole series of these things where they say one thing over here and they do a totally different thing over here.
All right, let me ask you a quick question. Are you being vetted in any sort of way for this vice presidency? I mean, the FBI called you? Has Trump called you? Nobody's called you?
No one has called me.
Has anyone who works for Trump called you?
Not about that.
No, but I mean, so there's nothing whatsoever.
I talk to the Trump campaign all the time, but we have not a single person has talked to me about being vetted in any way.
All right, Mr. Speaker, nice to see you. No one's talked to me either, but nobody ever talks to me about that stuff. Anyway, thank you.
Can I listen?
I wanted you to see that because there's been so many attacks on his foreign policy. And I want to tell you a little story about the great automobile mogul, Henry Ford. Someone asked him in the 1930s what made him a genius, and he said, "I'm not a genius. I surround myself with geniuses." And that is exactly what Donald Trump will know. The things that he don't know, the man is a very smart man. He will find experts, people in the field who knows what he's doing. There's nothing going to stop this man. He is going to be our president, and he is going to change this world. My guest here, who has been wonderful today, has a poem that he would like to recite about the veterans, and I'm all for the veterans. So,
well, thank you, Ray. This poem I wrote 5 years ago, and I recited it to one of our producers here in the studio a couple days ago to the audience out in the world here. It's called Freedom's Flame, and it was dedicated at our last Veterans Day event in Clovis, and it goes like this. There comes a glow on a distant hill from hallowed ground each night. The flame of freedom casts this glow, let no man dim this light. Our patriots ran with freedom's flame, they ran for you and me. A little child will sleep tonight and know that it is free. Let's pass this torch with freedom's flame to you and me this day. This fragile flame must never die. May it always light our way. The flame that melts the shackles and burns for what is right. Our sons and daughters kept the flame of freedom burning bright. So many came before us to shape this wondrous land. The life we live is not our own, for beside them all we stand.
I applaud
So
you.
we join our hands. I'm not done yet. We join our hands in friendship. Our hearts are joined in love. The history of our grand old flag unites us from above. Our Lady stands with flames so bright, she greets the new day sun. I love Our Lady Liberty. With freedom's flame, we'll run. Now come with me to hallowed ground where freedom's price was laid. The flame of freedom shines tonight. Their flame will never fade.
Absolutely beautiful. I applaud you. How fortunate was I to have this wonderful young man on my show today. In closing, I would like to say I'll be here every Thursday from 4 until 5 here on Central Valley Talk. I hope you'll join me. And as I said before, this is your vehicle. I would like to leave you with something that I read recently. It's by the great poet, and I'm sure she was a poet laureate. If not, she should have been, Maya Angelou. And it goes like this. People will forget what you said. People will also forget what you do. But people will never, ever forget how you made them feel. I think that's very important, and I hope that each and every one of you will go out into the world this week and make somebody feel good. I mean, I think it's our duty. Make somebody feel good. So until next Thursday, heaven's blessings.